And with the 20th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Jayden Quaintance, center out of Kentucky. A reminder that the Locked On NBA Draft Night is brought to you by Indeed. Go to Indeed.com/podcast and get a $75 sponsored job credit. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Terms and conditions apply. I'm Wes Goldberg. Right now we're joined by Matthew Tinnan from Locked On Spurs, joining us from the Spurs practice facility right now on draft night. Matthew, what should Spurs fans know about Jayden Quaintance?
Yeah, so first things first, this is an upside swing. This is very much going high risk, high reward. They weren't doing a whole just because the Spurs got to the finals, they're going to go for a fit type of draft pick. This is definitely a selection with talent in mind. The big risk here is that this is a guy who's missed a bunch of time due to a problematic knee, but he is the youngest player in the draft. We haven't had a chance to speak with Brian Wright yet. That will be at the end, after the first round has concluded. But this is a big athlete, really long arms, 7'6" wingspan, 6'11" frame, 250, 260. The idea behind this guy is eventually, if he is right, he's only 18 years old again. So once he gets to the point where they feel comfortable, this is going to be another one of Victor Wembanyama's backups. If it's not someone who can play right alongside him, take a lot of pressure off him defensively, and there may come a time down the road where just nobody's going to be able to score on the Spurs if they try to come into the paint at all.
Quaintance would be the biggest guy on a lot of teams, but not on the San Antonio's. They have a
Correct.
guy who's standing at 7'5". You mentioned potentially playing maybe even alongside Victor Wembanyama. Do you think that's what's the plan for San Antonio in general with what they want to do with Wemby? Is that kind of the vision? Is eventually we want to get to a spot where we play two bigs together more consistently?
I think that even early on in Victor's career, I mean, I know he just finished his third year, but kind of right off the bat, they wanted to pair him with another big. The problem is they sort of they tried with Zach Collins, who just kind of forgot how to shoot whenever Victor arrived in the league, and that whole experiment with Collins and Victor flamed out, and Zach Collins was obviously dealt at the deadline last year, so they moved on from that. But they've wanted to put more size next to Victor. They've just sort of had a dearth of it, so to speak. They've been in situations where they've tried to go with Luke Cornett, but it hasn't worked quite as well as they had hoped, at least in minimal minutes. But yeah, I mean, I think that they want to put size next to Victor to take some of the pressure off of him in a lot of different capacities. They don't want him to have to be banging around with the bigger bodies. I mean, we saw in the finals, we saw situations where, late in games, especially, you had guys like Mitch Robinson and even Cat at times kind of burying him under the rim for important rebounds and taking advantage of their strength and size over his. I know he's got the vertical size on people. He's got the height on people, but these dudes who have leverage against him can kind of get underneath and push him around. So I do think they want to put him next to some more size. And the good thing about Victor is they can just play him on the perimeter if they need to. I don't know if Quaintance is obviously the guy that they're just planning on being the future five or anything like that. It's way, 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 way too early to say anything like that. But it's at least rounding out the depth in the front court that they feel is incredibly important, not only for the near future, but going forward in Victor's career.
There were some other interesting names on the board when the Spurs were picking there. They obviously take a swing with a guy like Quaintance who has the medical red flags, but obviously the upside here. But why take this swing as opposed to maybe go in a different direction and address a different area of need, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this front office for years now has been dead set on we're taking best player available. We're going for talent over fit in the draft all day, and they've just continued to do that. They look at this whole thing as a process and not just sure they just made the NBA finals, but they still, as we saw their rotation shrink in the finals, even during the Western Conference finals. they're looking at this like, look, we need as much depth and talent as we can possibly get. We also want to line the future of Wembanyama's career with as much talent as we can get. And then, San Antonio is going to address their needs in free agency, on the trade market. Who knows? Maybe even off of the waiver scrap heap later. This is a time where they're going to continue to go after talent in the draft and address the more pressing, urgent matters for the immediate future here in a couple of days whenever free agency begins.
Thank you so much, Matthew, for jumping on for more on the San Antonio Spurs. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your podcasts.